We've talked about whether you should be an entrepreneur or not. We've talked about some of the challenges, and we've talked about where to get the funding. There shouldn't be much problem, right, with actually starting a business. But that's the funny thing. It's not just about the idea. It's about how to execute the idea. This is where we get to my favorite part of entrepreneurship, execution, the how. People forget that there's actually a way to go about building a business. And the correct way is the customer journey. So a customer journey is defined broadly as all the touch points or interactions that a customer will have with your brand or your offering, from getting to know about it, to purchasing it, to enjoying it, and even to giving feedback. The customer journey is a vital part of your business plan. It is, in essence, how you actually deliver your product or your service to your customer. I'm sure we've all learned about the 5 P's of marketing. If you've taken any business course, you've been exposed to this. They are price, product, place, promotion, and people, which is the 5 P's, and then you add in process and physical evidence. Now, these are great for marketing, but they form only a small part of the customer journey. I like to approach a business plan from this perspective because it ensures that you've addressed all the key interaction points, and it helps you to map out the operations of the business. Obviously, when I began my business 16 years ago, I knew about the 7 P's and the 5 P's, and I actually put together a business plan. But what I failed to account for is the customer journey. And that is the part that I wish I had taken into account. Now, I'll break down the customer journey to you, and I'll talk about the key areas that you should account for. If you have a business plan, wonderful. If you don't have one, work on one. There are several templates that you can find online. Just put together a basic business plan, and then you can incorporate the customer journey touch points. Now, if you do this, you should have a pretty extensive document that will help you to deliver the best value for your customer, and will guarantee you that if your product or service is good, you will have no problem at all reaching your customers and making money. But sometimes people ask, is it practical to have a business plan? Do we really need business plans? My response is yes, because a business plan is where you map out your vision for the business, where you want to go, how you think you want to get there, and what your ideas are. It tends to become a document that, even though it's a living document, meaning it can change, it helps you to also come back to center whenever you deviate from the plan, whenever you deviate from your idea, whenever you're distracted by what you see other people doing. I'll give you an example. If you decide that you want to have a pet grooming business, now, a pet grooming business in a lot of African cities, especially the cosmopolitan areas, is a business that has a lot of potential. People love their little cute dogs. People love to take care of their dogs. And really, they are willing to pay a lot of money to care for these dogs. Now, just because you started a pet grooming business does not mean that you cannot sell toys and other accessories for pets. At the same time, saying you have a pet grooming business does not mean that you should cater to all pets, meaning you can do cats, you can do dogs, but you can't do the snakes and, and hamsters and all the other things that people choose to keep as pets. So your business plan gives you the opportunity to actually define what it is that business A, which is going to be a pet grooming business, will do. Who will the customer be? That's, when we talk about the 5 P's, who are the people that you would target? Place, where to be located, price, how you intend to price it. Is it going to be upmarket? Is it going to be middle market? How are you going to price it? And then also promotion, how are you going to get people to know about the business? I don't want to spend too much time talking about what a good business plan should have, but a business plan should actually touch on all the 5 P's. It should also ideally have your vision, mission, targets, and basically your core principles for the business. I remember once someone looked at my business plan and basically my projections and business overview for my hair salon, and they were shocked. I think they were impressed, but they made a comment to the effect that all this for a hair salon? Yes, all this for a hair salon, because if I was going to do something, I was going to do it well. To describe the customer journey, we've talked about what it is. The very first point, how easy is it to know about you and your offering? Offering being whether it's a product or your service, whatever you're offering to people in your business. So that's the very first point. How easy is it to know? Now, if you think about how people will get to know about you, then you begin to have a brainstorm around how are the ways that you promote the business? How are the ways that you gain visibility? How are the ways that you gain awareness? How will you let your next door neighbor know about the service or the product if it applies to them? How would you let the larger population know about this exciting new product or this exciting offering that you have available for them? Brainstorming about this part, thinking through what the options are, understanding what is available to you locally, and taking advantage of it is how you look at the very first step of the customer journey. Now, people know about it, people know about your offering. The second aspect is how do they access it? Is it something that can be physically obtained? Do they have to buy it online? Do they have to buy it in person? What are the various ways in which you intend to deliver your offering to them? Again, when you think about this aspect, you can brainstorm. So if you're selling clothing, do you want to have an online shop? Do you want to have a WhatsApp shop? Do you want to have a physical location? Do you want a combination of all three? If you're going to do that, then you have to, in your business plan, then make allocation in terms of your budget for the website, for someone who's going to manage the website, someone who's going to be updating the website and the WhatsApp, the WhatsApp catalog, and even if you have a physical location, then certainly you need people who are going to be there. All that should be featured in your budget. But remember, it came about because you thought about how people are going to access your offering. And once you thought about it, then you needed to see it reflected in your budget. So people now know how to get what you're offering. They are aware of it. You've thought about how you're going to get it to them. Well, no, not to get it to them, how they're going to know about it. Then how are they going to pay for it? Are they going to pay for it by credit card? Are they going to pay for it by cash? Again, how they pay for it is dependent on how they get to know about it. In Ghana, one of the popular ways of selling clothing, for example, is on WhatsApp or Instagram. And when people have an Instagram shop, they'll tell you that payment is on delivery or payment is before delivery. You have to think about all these things. Several years ago, before the popularization of online payments, whether it's mobile money or M-Pesa, all these other digital ways of paying, it was such a struggle to run a business because there was always the risk that either you would pay from the customer perspective, you would pay and you wouldn't get what you essentially were paying for, or from the seller's perspective, you would send a product and the customer wouldn't pay for it. But we thank God we're now able to have faster and easier and seamless and reduced risk or risk-free ways of paying for services. But you have to think about it carefully. I remember being in Kenya at the Westgate Mall and I wanted to actually take my son to a playground and you could only pay for it with M-Pesa. I was confused because I said, well, I'm a visitor. What if I don't have M-Pesa? And I didn't have M-Pesa. They said no cash. So I kept asking, but we want to participate. No cash, you're not taking card, and it's only M-Pesa. Excellent business, playground in a mall, excellent idea, excellent location. However, they hadn't thought through how people could pay because they had only had one use case in mind. And the use case was of local Kenyan people. Now, what about me, a tourist visiting for the day who wanted to sit down for at least an hour and have her son play? And this was not available to me. Lost sales. That's a shame. So we've gone through the main points, but now that people know how they can pay for your offering, how are you going to deliver it to them? Is it something that they receive instantly, meaning it is a service or something that you send to them virtually? Is it like a course? Is it something that you have to deliver to them like a tangible physical product? Or is it something they have to come in person to experience personally? For example, getting their nails done or getting a haircut. So once you've thought about all these things, then you need to think about that experience. What is the experience for them to receive the item, to receive your offering, to receive what they will pay or have paid for? If it's a website, which is the classic case in where we get the customer journey perfected, and then the customer journey is easy to map out because you have to go to the various landing pages, you go to where they can pay, and then there's a whole system in place of how they'll receive the item. Again, it could be a course. But if it's something that they have to come to in person and receive, we talked about nails and a haircut, then you have to think about how easy is it to access your location? When the customer arrives, how do they go about interacting? So all the various touch points from the front desk to the waiting area to the barber to the actual haircut process and finally to making payments. Every single step along the way needs to be thought of carefully from the customer perspective. And you need to think about how to make it enjoyable and easy for the customer. We all know how frustrating it is to go to a restaurant where you're received nicely, ambience is amazing, aesthetics, very Instagrammable, you love it. You look at the menu, you ask for an item, and you're told, oh, ma'am, sorry, this is not available. You're like, oh, okay. So you pick another item. The waiter or the waitress goes back, comes back 2 minutes later and says, no, ma'am, sorry, we don't have this available. So the third time, you get frustrated and say, okay, what do you have available? Let's put the menu aside. What do you actually have available? Now, that's a terrible customer experience. But if you think of it in terms of the customer journey, it's about putting things on the menu that are not always going to be available. So isn't it better for a restaurant to have a very limited menu, even if it is 10 or 15 items, and making sure they have those items all the time? Would you not rather go to a place where you are assured that you will have what you want consistently? The fast food chains have done a great job of standardizing this. In-N-Out Burger, Shake Shack in the US, what they do is they have a simple limited menu of burgers. They do them well, they do them excellently, and that's all they offer. Offering an excellent customer experience does not have to be with a big menu or a long list of things that you can offer. It can sometimes be about offering just a few items, offering them excellently, and making sure that the customers have an amazing time each and every time they visit. So we're talking about how to receive your offering. If it's not in person and it's not online and it actually has to be delivered to the customer, then you have to be very careful. You have to be careful about who the delivery service provider is. You have to be very careful about the state in which the item arrives to the customer, or even how it's packaged. I know these days unboxings are all the rage, but guess what? It's because people take great care and pride in how they put their products together. If I'm going to serve you a meal of ugali, some vegetables, a sauce, and some meat, I have to think about the packaging very carefully. Because it's going to travel to you, if I put it in a cheap aluminum pan, by the time it gets to you, it would either have poured or be just a mess. So the best thing is to get a durable, sturdy, not just container, but also the bag in which I package it in. Every single step shows the thought and care that you've put into the customer experience, and it strengthens your brand. And overall, that is how you execute excellently. So you sold the item, people have experienced it. Another step, another part of the customer journey that you have to consider is, how do they come back? Yes, the person came the first time. How do you ensure that they come back again? So if it's something that was sold online, are you going to send periodic reminders? Are you going to send them thank you emails after they've made the purchase? Are you going to actually send them a survey, a message that says, did you enjoy it? Let me know. Some people find it annoying, but the reality is, if the person had a bad experience and you send them an email asking them for feedback, they are likely to send you the feedback. If the person has a good experience, they'll dismiss it. But it combines the comeback with a very important touch point, which is getting feedback. Now, getting the customer to come back means if the offering was delivered in an excellent way and the customer enjoyed the product, enjoyed the service, they are likely to come back. You don't need to send them a reminder, but it's always thoughtful, and we're human beings. We like that extra touch. It's always thoughtful to send them a little prompt, to send them a little reminder. Now, remember not to be annoying, but it's essential to occasionally, even if it is once a quarter, just pop up in their emails, pop up in their WhatsApp, pop up with a call and say, oh, we haven't seen you in a while. Just checking on you. We would like to see you come back. That makes you top of mind. That is actually a way of promotion, but it's also a way to let them know that they are not just a number. The last touch point, which is, how do you get feedback? Sometimes, again, when you're calling them just to check on them, you can ask, how was your service the last time? How was your experience the last time? And this might be a way to just coax out the feedback. As Africans, we don't always easily give feedback. So when you ask people, it gives them an opportunity and lets them know whether you're receptive to the feedback. Now, if you get the feedback, it's important that you use the feedback properly. You also take advantage of the feedback. So if someone gives you feedback, the goal is that you say, oh, thank you for the feedback. We appreciate the feedback. We'll work on it. You don't have to say anymore. Just acknowledging it, noting it, and trying to implement or fix the issue is more than enough. Businesses are broken on companies not taking feedback. You and I know several businesses where we've sworn we will never set foot in that business again because you gave feedback, and either it was received poorly, where the person who was receiving the feedback got very defensive, or when the feedback was given, you felt as though they weren't going to do anything about it. Now, just sincerely saying, we'll take that feedback into consideration and we'll work at it is enough assurance that most people need. They just want to know that they've been heard. They just want to know that indeed, because they spent their money with you and they had an experience which was less than ideal, you've heard what they have to say. And that's all. So, your customer journey is an essential part of your business plan. And if you include all these touch points that I've talked about, you can end up with an expanded plan, you can end up with a more exhaustive document, and you will be able to execute excellently. Think about your favorite service experience. I personally don't enjoy going into banks most of the time because there's a lot of friction. So the goal in every single aspect of your customer journey is to make it frictionless, is to make it enjoyable if possible, and to ensure that the customer has a good feeling when they are done with the entire process. Tailor or barber or anyone who renders a service to you, is it just about the product or the service they're giving you, or it's about how they make you feel in total? And then think about your worst experience or the place that you hate to go or places that you've sworn off. I bet you it's because they failed on one aspect of this. A good offering can be broken just by one ill thought out step in the customer journey. So I encourage you today to map out your customer journey, and hopefully it will help you to put in place measures to give your customers an excellent experience. Happy customers means more purchases. More purchases means more money, and that's the goal of business. What are your experiences? Mention some of your worst customer experiences with a product or a service in the comments. What do you think were the gaps? Where do you think they fell short? What do you think they could have done differently? And how did they receive the feedback if you gave feedback? Thank you.